I'm 24 years old and I run an ads agency managing around 60 active clients per month. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I got my first 10 clients. Of course, starting with the most important story, which is going to be getting my first client, the grind to get the first several clients, and then obviously how things shift as you begin to scale around client 5 and thereon. Most of this is going to be my personal experience, obviously, right? So all my opinions, how I did it, what's working for me now versus what worked for me back then. But truth is, and I'm going to tell you this right now so you don't have to watch the entire video, there is no holy grail answer, especially when you're just starting. And this probably goes for any business really, right? There is no singular path to follow that guarantees success. And you should get that out of the way now and accept that, because what worked for me may not work for you, right? There are things other people are doing that are making 10 times what I make that simply just doesn't work for me. So keep that in mind throughout this video, but definitely pay attention and listen along, because there's gonna be a lot of good resources in terms of what worked for me, how I approached it, how I got started, and honestly, you'll probably be able to relate a lot. So let's jump right into it. Now, where was I in my life when I was actually just signing my very first client? So there's a lot of different ways you can consider this, right? When we're saying my first client, do I talk about my first actual paid ads, Google Ads client that paid me $1,000 a month? Or are we talking about my first actual, Wi-Fi money internet gig I got from when I was when I was like 15, 16? So that's what I'm going to start at. When I was 15, 16 years old, I was doing pretty much everything. I was running a clothing brand that was print on demand, basically drop shipping a clothing brand. So I was drop shipping things like pet beds, gaming accessories, headsets, a lot of gaming stuff, honestly. None of it really took off. It was probably break even at the end of it. But when you're like 15, 16 and you're like doing drop shipping and you can say you ran a Shopify store that did a couple $1,000s in revenue, that's pretty awesome. Obviously there's people back then at my age that were doing way better than that, but I was still impressed, and it was a good gateway, a good entry for me to get into the online business and Wi-Fi money-making space. So from running a clothing brand, from doing all these various internet things, I picked up on a lot of skills, a lot of marketing skills, a lot of internet skills, and I became a lot more tech savvy, and obviously it helped that I was a gamer. So when I wasn't gaming for like 12 hours a day, the other 12 hours were spent on my computer, grinding, working, and hustling savvy. I picked up web design, kind of just from Shopify and some other things, and Squarespace that were popular. Was like drag and drop. Like I know Wix was just releasing a drag and drop, and then there was Squarespace, even GoDaddy and stuff like that. But that's kind of where I found my first edge. Was okay, like I'm kind of good at this web design stuff. It's really all I know how to do online. I follow some people on Twitter. I was like on the internet money making space, and people just kind of talk about it, right? They talk about how to make your first like 10K a month online, or how to do this and how to do that. And I got really infatuated by the agency model. And I still am, obviously, it's what I do today. But to me, that was the most like simple, but yet groundbreaking path for me to follow if I wanted to do some sort of like Wi-Fi internet money entrepreneur thing. So I decided when I was like 16 years old, I was going to just really push on web design. Pretty simple variation of it. I was like, okay, I'm going to find like pretty low budget, like newer, smaller, local service-based companies that need websites, and I'm going to build them some basic stuff, right? Of course, this is like before AI. We don't have Lovable. We don't have any of these like crazy Webflow cool tools. So it was really just like me working in Wix. That was pretty much the basic of it. And obviously I was going after like low, because I myself going into this, I knew I wasn't delivering a 5-star website. I could probably even find an example and show you, but that was kind of my pitch, was like, look, I'm not going to be able to sell a $10,000 website, let alone a $3,000 website. So when I tell you that my first ever like actual client was a $200 website, it's pretty embarrassing thinking about it. But honestly, like, dude, I was so stoked. Like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And to be fair, that is pretty, like, I just made $200 from some random guy online because I made him a website. Now, more importantly, how did I actually find this guy? To be honest, I was scouring through Upwork. So I had an Upwork account. At the time, I wasn't actually doing freelancing, and I still don't freelance on Upwork. But what I would do is on Upwork is like briefs or something, right? So people can they can submit a request for, hey, I need a web designer that can do this, and then all these freelancers can go out there and like a job, and they're basically like competing and bidding this contract, right? Similar to what we have out here today, but I would go through Upwork and I would just kind of crawl through, and instead of applying directly on Upwork and proposal, or like, try and compete with all these other freelancers, I would look for that ad, like probably a lot of information, like the ones where the owner like submitted his website name and sometimes even his contact info. Because I would do some extra research, I'd put in like Alex Smith, alexconstruction.com, and like look through LinkedIn and use like some online lead scraping tools and try and dig his company. Boom, message him directly. Then from there on, it's pretty much just a cold email approach. I would just basically give him the gist, and I was no pro. I bought some cold email like course back then. So I was like probably following like some crazy script, and I was using these tools called, so Lemlist is still a thing if you're familiar with it, but if you do cold email, you probably do. But yeah, I was basically just lead scraping Upwork briefs and then using tools and other cold emailers to bulk email these guys, somewhat personalized emails, basically just pitching them my web design services. And when I say I probably sent 100 emails and got one response, yeah, that was probably true. And that one dude I sold for a $200 GoDaddy website. I can like vaguely remember the company name. It was some sort of like in the Inland Empire area of California. It was pretty cool. Honestly, I should hit them up after this video and see if they need Google Ads now, or maybe a website refresh. But that was my first client. So, and when I say client, it was more of a one-time thing. It took me like a couple days. I built my GoDaddy website, got them all set up, and then $200. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. He was actually super happy. I tried running his ads. He wasn't into it, but then again, you pay $200 for a website. Probably don't have the budget for Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever. But that was like my first real taste at this like internet money and getting clients and signing clients. And I wasn't really in the agency model, right? I was just a guy kind of doing freelance work, but that was like my true taste of it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Now from here on, I probably thought the path was going to be a lot easier. I was like kind of coming off a high, you know what I mean? I just got paid for my first gig. I'm going to crush it. Probably for the next 6 months, I don't think I closed a single other web design gig. Not a single one. Except for this one, which turned into a website design gig. And this is probably the client that really transformed me and kind of started pushing me into the agency model and getting into paid ads, right? So similar approach here. I would go through Upwork briefs. Well, that didn't work. And I'm like 6 months into this and I haven't pretty much sold anyone since all of this, right? So I tweak my approach a little bit. What I actually do, I go through LinkedIn. I'm now looking for people who are hiring like marketing managers and these like, higher marketing positions for these roles at the companies. And it's kind of the same thing if you think about it, right? An Upwork brief is basically for freelancers looking to complete XYZ project. LinkedIn Jobs is looking for XYZ person to hire to do X project. So in a way it's similar. It's just a more professional version of freelance briefs. So I kind of took the same approach and I did the same thing. I actually applied for like many jobs and I ended up landing an interview with a roofing company. I think they were in Indianapolis, and dude was so cool. He was like the coolest guy ever. He was kind of like me, just 30 years old. You know what I mean? He's done a bunch of online internet like making things or Wi-Fi money stuff, I guess we call it, right? He's done like Amazon audiobooks. He's done a little bit of drop shipping, and now he's like some like ex-YouTube money-making guy turning into like a home service company, and he's launching a roofing company. So I think we immediately connected because he probably saw like a version of himself in me at a younger age, because I was just a kid, 16, 17 years old. I mean, I wanted an online business. I was loving it. So he probably like respected the hustle a lot. And I came clean. I told him what I'm trying to do. I'm like, look, honestly, I don't really want to be a marketing manager. And I'm definitely not qualified. I'm like 16. I'm like a junior in high school, so it's not going to work. But I know this is remote, and you obviously have a need for marketing. You're a brand new roofing company. You don't have a website. You have nothing. I have marketing experience. You need marketing experience. You need a website. Let's figure this out. Coolest guy ever. He was so cool. And honestly, I think I really only got that gig because of me, like because of who I was. It had nothing to do with my skills, because I didn't even show him any proof of concept or case studies or testimonials. I think he simply just wanted to hire me and give me a chance and like the hustle. And I mean, I fully devoted myself to this guy's company for like the next 6 months. He paid me $1,000 a month, which was incredible for one. I'm like 16, 17 years old. Like $1,000 a month is crazy, especially for your like first real client. Now, I consider him a client. I wasn't technically employed by him. It was kind of like an agency relationship thing. So in a way, yeah, I'd say he was my first real true client other than the previous one, right? But yeah, $1,000 a month, and I built his website, I built his ads, I set up his Google business profile, I set up his Yelp, I ran his Facebook ads, I ran his Google ads. I pretty much did everything. I was basically being paid $1,000 a month to be his like marketing guy. So I handled everything from A to Z, and I was figuring out most of it as I went. I was learning Google ads for the first time. I was learning Facebook ads for the first time. I was learning new website things for the first time, conversion tracking and like lead generation and all these things I never really worried about before, because previously I was only doing like a couple web design things on like GoDaddy. So now I was in a whole new realm, but I was kind of faking it till I made it. I definitely like built myself up to be a lot more than maybe what he'd expected. But I mean, we worked together like for 6 months. And like I said, because to me, this was for me to learn, for one, so I can further take this to other clients, to get a good testimonial out of him, because I knew he would be, be grateful enough to write me a review or whatever. And of course, for the money, right? Like I wanted the money. Well, we crushed it for him. I mean, like we were actually tracking revenue through Jobber and everything. And keep in mind, this man started from like, I don't want to say nothing. That sounds rude. But like this was his first roofing company. Like when he hired me, it was like a week old. So yeah, and like crushed it. The Facebook ads were okay, but like the Google ads completely crushed it for him. It was crazy, and I was out of my mind. He was stoked. We ended up working together for probably another like 2 years into my journey. Obviously, like going forward, when we were actually like towards the end of our relationship or our working relationship, I was already running a full agency. So just to show you how long he stuck with me and worked with me, it was really awesome to see. But that was kind of what really like started me and got me moving into this, because now I opened up the can of paid ads and marketing and Facebook ads and funnels and everything. And I had like, I had really had my feet in the water. I was pretty deep in the water now, a really clear understanding of how these local service companies work inside and out. And that's when I fully devoted to pursuing running ads for local service companies. From there, I did everything, like to try and get clients. Like that was when I was really serious, and I was like actually formulating the idea of, okay, I'm gonna be an agency. I'm going to run ads for other companies, right? So I stuck to cold email. I tried that a little bit. I would go through Facebook and I would find people who were running ads on Facebook, go through the Facebook ad library, and I'd call out everything they were doing wrong. I'd film Loom videos, just kind of like this, just screen sharing and basically showing them their ad library and some of my clients, and being like, you're doing this wrong. This is how you should be doing it. No, let me show you these results. Look at my client. So I was basically pitching these people and sending them Loom videos, including them in the cold email, sometimes DMing them directly through Messenger or Facebook. I would cold call businesses. Let me tell you, I've not cold called a company since like 2017, 2018. That was horrifying and definitely not my thing. I'm definitely not a sales rep. It's not for me. But yeah, cold calling, cold emailing, cold outreach, I guess you could say, through like socials with the Loom videos, the Facebook messages. And, I pretty much did everything in the book that you can think of when I was trying to acquire these clients from my agency. However, it all kind of fell through. I mean, I'd say in the 6 months that went by of me doing this, when I was like maybe 2 more clients, both of them, probably left after a month or two just because the performance wasn't there. And I know what I was doing. Like I knew enough to run ads, but I wasn't like an expert. I didn't actually take the time out to learn to run these ads. So after 6 months of cold outreach and all this crazy stuff, and having only signed 2 clients in 6 months that both left the following month because of lack of performance, I kind of was a little fed up. I took a break. I stopped. And I stopped and realized was like, I just don't know what I'm doing. I'm just not good enough. Like this whole past year, I've been so focused on getting clients, I never focused on learning the skills that come with this, right? Important, because I see a lot of people that go to run agencies or start their own agency, well, they don't know what they're doing, right? How are you going to run a Facebook ads agency if you don't know how Facebook ads work? That's just weird. That doesn't make any sense. Even if you don't end up being the person who's fulfilling, you need to know for communication. You need to know for escalations. You need to know for when the client's asking you questions, and for when you're peeking your eyes over the media buyer and making sure the account's performing well, right? You don't have to be doing the day-to-day grunt work, but you need to know how the platform works, at least to some level of expertise. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to put this in the back burner, right? I'm going to keep doing whatever I've been doing, just chilling, and I'm going to pick up some courses. I'm going to learn how to run ads. So I ended up honestly picking up a couple Facebook ad courses. I felt like I got my bearings right, tried it again, didn't end up signing any clients. A couple months go by. Okay, I gave up. Next, I kind of find myself in like a pickle. I was like, look, I've been watching these tons of like agency owners, YouTubers, and other things on how to run ads online. Part of me really felt attached to the whole agency model, so I didn't want to give it up, but I felt like I needed like a helping hand. So I ended up actually like emailing a couple of big agency owners or people I would watch on YouTube that ran agencies, and I was like, hey, can you guys help me? I don't really remember. I could probably find the email, but I think I was just straight up like, hey, look, I'm like 19. I'm just about to start college. I'm 18 or whatever. I'm just trying to start an agency, and I need some help. I'd love 30 minutes of your time or something. And I had a couple reply to me, and I actually had one specifically reply that I still talk to today. Incredible. Not only did he reply to me and take the time to actually hop on a call with me, but he gave me his courses entirely for free, which was probably one of the most important aspects of like my entrepreneur life. Once he gave me those courses for free, I felt like I had to dedicate myself to this now because I've been blessed, right? So what's funny is this whole past year I've been trying to go into Facebook ads. Well, he was a Google ads guy. So he actually granted me a couple of his Google ad and direct mailing courses and some other stuff for free. And from there, I stuck with Google ads. I was like, look, this guy was kind enough to give me some access to his course for free. He's a Google ads agency. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go all in on Google ads. So I ended up probably spending the next like month or two just really absorbing all these courses and some other content online, really getting my hands dirty in Google ads and learning it in and out. And that's when I started to feel like I was more of an expert within Google ads. I actually did go apply to work with some agencies. I worked with a white label agency as a freelancer, or you could say as on contract. And that's when I really had my first handful of accounts and clients. Now, technically they were their clients, but I still had like the ownership of them. You know, I was getting paid per account. So in a way, it was kind of like an agency retainer. I was getting paid around $350 per account. So this agency I worked for would bring on accounts and clients that needed Google Ads. Maybe they'd charge them $900. They'd pay me $350. They'd pocket the rest. So you can kind of see how it works. And that started stacking up. That helped me a lot become more confident in the service I was delivering, because I became better at Google Ads, and honestly, I was crushing it for their accounts. They were so happy. Their clients were happy. They kept feeding me more and more work, and I never said no because they were paying me per account. So like I was like, just keep going. Like I got it. Like I can handle it. Well, of course, I hit around like 15 accounts or so with them, which is a lot, and I was making pretty good money. But if we do the math, like 15 times 3, I was probably making around like 6-7K or something, maybe a little less than that. I don't remember, but that's a lot of money. That's more than some people make a month, right? And I was like freaking out. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I was like, that's crazy. Well, they kept feeding me accounts, and eventually I had to get help. So I was actually talking to some other agency owners and some people, and they told me hire overseas or something. So I did. I hired this like part-time guy overseas in the Philippines, and he was helping me run ads for them. And so he had a couple accounts. I was paying him. They were paying me. You know, this whole thing's going on for a year now. And I'm just sitting there like one day, and I'm like, am I running an agency? Like, I think this is kind of an agency. And I accidentally have been running an agency these last couple of months. I'm the agency owner. Sure, I'm managing a couple accounts and some clients, but I have an employee, someone working underneath me that's also managing these accounts. I'm getting paid per account. And I was like, that's kind of cool. So from there on is when I kind of really locked in and I took it more serious. And I eventually did kind of back out of that agreement with them and kind of formulate my own LLC and take on my own direct clients. But I definitely started leaning in that more white label model a lot. And that's how I got the bulk majority of my clients, was through agreements with other agency owners. Like, we fulfill this if you fulfill this, or we'll take on this client if you pay us this, or we'll pay you this percentage per month if you sign us this. And that's kind of how I got the ball rolling, was right. I just woke up one day and I was like, dang, I have like 18 accounts, and I have a guy in the Philippines helping me manage these accounts. If I just lean into this a little bit more and take it more serious. So, I wanted to lean more into the agency side, and that's exactly what I did those next year. And of course, fast forward to today, we have a team of 4 people. We got me, 2 in Canada, and we have another guy in the Philippines, and then some other part-time person. So yeah, and honestly, as funny as it is, that person I originally hired in the Philippines back, he's still with us full time. Isn't that so cool? And we've just grown since then. So super awesome to hear and see. And obviously there's a lot of caveats and a lot of things in between that maybe I didn't cover. It wasn't the exact path, and there are some gaps and holes that maybe I skipped over. But truth is, it's because so much happened. There's so many little things that have to happen to get to where you want to be that you don't even know about it. Like, you just kind of skim past it. At least that's how I was. I mean, I'll probably stop filming this here in a minute and recognize 10 other clients I had that I never mentioned, or 10 different things I came across. But like, the truth is, I really did try everything, and I really still do a lot to get clients and stuff. Like, the way I get clients nowadays is mostly through inbound, through organic content like this. Or organic content's excellent, but you have to be an expert, right? You have to position yourself as the expert in the space, in the industry, so that people come to you for inbound. If you know what you're talking about and you're making videos about Facebook ads, people want to work with you. So inbound referrals and partnerships are definitely the way we get most of our clients nowadays. Again, for other clients, they run paid acquisition. I've never run paid ads. I've never run paid ads to get clients. And then direct mailing, phone, cold calling, cold emailing, social, inbound, outbound. There's a plethora of ways to get accounts, to get clients. But I mean, my number one advice I tell to most people is, don't even do it until you're an expert in what you're delivering. If you're going to try and get Facebook ad clients and you don't know anything about Facebook ads, take a couple months off. Learn Facebook ads. Get some testimonials. Actually know what you're talking about. Because I guarantee you, when you get on that first sales call with the potential Facebook ad client, when you know Facebook ads so well, you can just rip off your dome. It's the easiest thing ever. I don't think a sales call is like sales calls anymore. I used to get all nervous and shake up, but because I'm so confident in what I do and I know what I'm talking about, basically just yapping about Google ads in his account, and if he agrees and likes what he's hearing, he'll work with me. If he doesn't, that's how it is. That's my very long rant on how I got started in my agency and how I got my first clients. And the truth is, that's how I accidentally started my ads agency.